Hi everyone, welcome back. Let's dive into today's story. Armed and furious, I called my army friend and set out for vengeance. The phone buzzed at 6:13 a.m., dragging me out of a restless sleep. My head pounded from the corporate gala the night before, but what I read on my screen snapped me to full attention. Your wife serviced us. Now pay up. My wife, Eleanor, wasn't in bed. Her side was cold, the sheets undisturbed. Panic and fury surged through me as the phone buzzed again. This time, it was an audio message. A deep, gravelly voice played. She was magnificent, Lucas. But now it's your turn. Pay what we're owed or we'll come to you. My stomach churned. The woman I had loved and trusted for 8 years had vanished into the night. A marriage I once thought was built on trust seemed to be nothing more than a mirage. For 8 years, Eleanor and I had been the envy of our social circles. At galas and dinners, we were the couple people gravitated toward. She, with her infectious charm, and I, with my quiet confidence. Together, we were unstoppable. Or so I believed. But in recent months, something had shifted. At first, it was subtle. Eleanor, who had once greeted me at the door with a warm smile, began retreating to the bedroom as soon as she arrived home. Her phone, once carelessly left on countertops, was now glued to her hand. The screen turned away from me. She started taking calls late at night, murmuring into the receiver before slipping outside where I couldn't hear. The excuses were always plausible. Late meetings, charity events, impromptu girls' nights. I wanted to trust her. I really did. But trust, I've learned, is fragile. One night, I caught her standing by the window, staring at her phone. She seemed lost in thought, her face illuminated by the soft glow of the screen. When I asked who she was texting, she turned quickly, forcing a laugh. Just work stuff, she said too casually. You know how demanding Stefan can be. Stefan, her colleague, who had a reputation for being more interested in his coworkers than in his career. I had brushed off my suspicions then, chalking it up to paranoia, but now, every little oddity stood out like a warning sign I had ignored. The corporate gala was supposed to be a celebration of my promotion, a night where Eleanor and I could reconnect. Instead, it would become the night I realized just how deep the cracks in our facade ran. The estate where the gala was held could only be described as extravagant. Crystal chandeliers cast golden light over a sea of high-powered executives, their laughter and conversations blending into a symphony of wealth and ambition. Eleanor arrived fashionably late, turning heads as she walked in wearing a black satin dress that hugged her figure perfectly. She looked stunning, radiant even, but her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. Sorry, love, she said, kissing me lightly on the cheek. I got caught up at the office. I wanted to believe her, but the faint scent of a man's cologne clung to her, a scent that wasn't mine. My stomach twisted, but I pushed the thought away. This was the night to celebrate, not to dwell on insecurities. As the evening unfolded, I noticed Eleanor gravitating toward Stefan and another man I didn't recognize. The stranger was tall, sharp-featured, with piercing blue eyes that seemed to take in everything. When I approached, their conversation stopped abruptly. Lucas, Eleanor said with forced cheerfulness, meet Anton, a friend of Stefan's. He's visiting from Paris. Anton extended his hand, his grip firm and his smile cold. A pleasure, he said, his accent faint but refined. His eyes lingered on Eleanor for a moment too long. Throughout the night, I tried to shake off the unease that settled over me. Eleanor was distracted, her gaze darting around the room as if searching for someone. I told myself I was imagining things. But when I saw her slip out of the ballroom with Stefan and Anton, her phone clutched tightly in her hand, I couldn't ignore the knot in my chest. An hour passed, then 2. I checked the balcony, the garden, even the valet station, but there was no sign of her. By the time the gala ended, she still hadn't returned. Have you seen Eleanor? I asked Stefan when I spotted him leaving. He hesitated, then shrugged. She said she needed some air. You know how she gets. His casual tone grated on me. Something wasn't right, and deep down, I knew this was more than a misunderstanding. The call came at dawn, jolting me awake. The text message that followed was worse. Your wife serviced us. Now pay up. The words burned into my mind, each one dripping with venom. I called Victor immediately. Victor's arrival and the hunt for Eleanor. He arrived within the hour, his demeanor calm but his eyes sharp with concern. Victor had been my closest friend since our days in the army. He had a knack for cutting through chaos with precision, and I needed that now more than ever. "She's not home," I said, pacing the living room. "Her car's missing. And this message? What does it even mean?" "It means we need to find her," Victor said, his voice steady. "Where was she last seen?" We started at the gala venue, questioning staff and reviewing security footage. It showed Eleanor leaving the estate around midnight, slipping into a sleek black car with Stefan and Anton. From there, the trail went cold until we found her car at a service station 3 miles away. The car was parked haphazardly, as if abandoned in a hurry. Inside, we found her silk scarf, crumpled on the passenger seat and stained with lipstick. But it wasn't Eleanor's shade. Tucked beneath the seat was a matchbook from an exclusive club in the city, embossed with a gold emblem of a snake coiled around a rose. Victor turned the matchbook over in his hands, his brow furrowed. "This place isn't just a club," he said. "It's a front for other activities." "What kind of activities?" I asked, my voice tight. "Let's just say it's where people go when they want something that money can't buy." Victor's tone was grim. "If Eleanor was there, she's in deeper trouble than you realize." The matchbook was our only lead, so we followed it. The club was hidden in plain sight, a nondescript building in a quiet part of the city. A single bronze plaque marked the entrance, and the doorman's sharp gaze made it clear that this was not a place for outsiders. Inside, the air was heavy with smoke and whispered conversations. The room was dimly lit, the kind of place where secrets thrived. Confronting Anton and the truth revealed. It didn't take long to find Stefan, seated at a corner table with a glass of whiskey in hand. "Lucas," he said, feigning surprise as we approached. "What are you doing here?" "Where is she?" I demanded, my voice low but seething. Stefan hesitated, his confident demeanor slipping. "She's with Anton," he admitted. "They left together after the gala." "Why?" I pressed, leaning closer. "What did you get her into?" He sighed, his shoulders slumping. "Look, I don't know all the details. Anton said it was a business arrangement, something about accounts and keeping things quiet. Elena agreed to it." "Agree to what?" I snapped. "To disappear," Stefan said, his voice barely audible. "She wanted out, Lucas, but it's not just about her anymore." His words sent a chill down my spine. This wasn't just infidelity. This was something far more sinister. The drive to the club was silent. Victor's hands gripped the wheel tightly, his eyes scanning the road like a predator hunting its prey. My mind raced with questions. Why would Elena abandon everything for Anton? What did Stefan mean by keeping things quiet? And what was waiting for us behind the doors of this exclusive, secretive club? When we arrived, the building was more understated than I expected. A single bronze plaque adorned the entrance, its emblem of a snake coiled around a rose gleaming in the dim streetlight. The faint hum of music leaked through the heavy oak doors, mingling with the low murmur of voices inside. Victor motioned for me to stay close as we pushed through the doors. The interior was suffocatingly decadent, dimly lit, with dark leather furnishings and crystal chandeliers dripping like frozen tears. The air smelled of cigar smoke, expensive whiskey, and something else. Something metallic, almost bitter. "Places like this don't survive by being sloppy," Victor murmured. "They'll know we don't belong." As we moved deeper into the room, my gaze landed on a familiar figure. Stefan. He was lounging in a corner booth, nursing a glass of whiskey with a forced calm that didn't match the tension in his jaw. When he saw us, his expression shifted from annoyance to fear. Victor didn't waste a second. He grabbed Stefan by the arm, pulling him out of the booth and into the hallway behind us. The dimly lit corridor amplified every muffled footstep, every rustle of fabric, making my pulse thunder in my ears. "Where is Elena?" Victor's voice was low and steady, but it carried the weight of a command. Stefan's bravado crumbled. I told you," he stammered. "She left with Anton after the gala. She's at his villa. It was her choice." "Why would she do that?" I asked, my voice rising with frustration. What did she agree to? Stefan hesitated, glancing between Victor and me as if deciding which of us was the greater threat. Anton has leverage on both of you. Money, secrets, things you wouldn't want exposed. Elena thought she could buy your way out of it. The words hit me like a blow to the gut. Elena wasn't just unfaithful. She had gambled our lives, our future, for a chance to escape something she didn't even trust me enough to explain. The showdown at Anton's villa and final betrayal. Anton's villa loomed ahead like a dark fortress, its high walls and security cameras a clear message. Trespassers weren't welcome. Victor and I parked the car a quarter-mile away and approached on foot, our steps muffled by the dense forest floor. "Remember," Victor whispered as we reached the perimeter fence, "no rash moves. This isn't just about finding Elena, it's about making them pay." We scaled the fence, landing in the shadows of the sprawling garden. The faint glow of lights from inside the villa painted the windows in shades of gold and black, flickering like warning signs. Through the side window, I saw her. Elena was seated at a long dining table, her back straight but her shoulders tense. Her black dress was rumpled, and her makeup streaked as though she'd been crying. Across from her sat Anton, swirling a glass of wine with the kind of arrogance that only comes from knowing you hold all the cards. "I'll take the guards," Victor said, pulling me back from the window. "You focus on her and him." Inside, the tension was suffocating. As I stepped into the room, Anton looked up with a smug smile that made my blood boil. "Lucas," he said, spreading his arms as if welcoming an old friend. "So good of you to join us." Elena turned to me, her eyes wide and glistening with unshed tears. "Lucas, I didn't." She started. "Don't." I cut her off. I turned my attention to Anton, my voice low and steady. "What do you want?" He laughed, a hollow sound that echoed through the room. "What I want," he said, leaning back in his chair, "is what I always get. Power, money, control." "Not tonight," I said, pulling a flash drive from my pocket and placing it on the table. "This contains everything. Your financial dealings, your blackmail schemes, even the offshore accounts you thought were untouchable. By the time the sun rises, it'll be in the hands of the authorities." Anton's smile faltered, but only for a moment. "You're bluffing," he said, though his voice carried a flicker of doubt. Victor stepped into the room, dragging a guard by the collar. "He's not," Victor said, his tone icy. "And your little operation? It's over." Anton lunged for the flash drive, but Victor intercepted him with a swift, calculated blow. The dining table tipped over as Anton hit the floor, his glass of wine shattering and staining the pristine white carpet like blood. Elena let out a startled gasp, but I didn't look at her. "Not yet. Do you think you're the first man to try to take me down?" Anton spat, struggling against Victor's grip. "I've survived worse than this." "Not this time," I said, my voice cold. "This time, you'll lose everything." As the sound of sirens pierced the air, Anton's composure crumbled. He thrashed against Victor, cursing and yelling, but it was no use. The authorities had arrived, and with them, the end of Anton's reign. I turned to Elena as the chaos unfolded around us. Her tears fell freely now, her hands trembling as she reached for me. "Lucas, please," she whispered. "I didn't know how to fix this. I was trying to protect you." "No," I said, stepping back. "You were trying to protect yourself. And now, you'll face the consequences." I handed her a stack of papers, divorce filings, evidence of her complicity in Anton's schemes, and a notice of her frozen accounts. "This is your legacy, Elena. Enjoy it." The aftermath, rebuilding and finding peace. Months passed, and the storm that had torn through my life began to settle. The headlines faded, and with them, the shadow of Elena and Anton's betrayal. But in their absence, something remarkable happened. I found myself. I stood on the balcony of my new apartment, the city stretching out before me like an unfinished painting. The hum of life below was a gentle reminder that the world, vast and indifferent, kept turning no matter how many pieces you had to pick up. For years, I had built my life around trust, only to see it shattered. Yet here I was, still standing, still breathing, still dreaming. Betrayal hadn't destroyed me. It had refined me, like fire forging steel. I took a sip of whiskey, the amber liquid catching the light of the setting sun. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, I felt a sense of peace. Not the peace of forgetting, but the peace of letting go. And as the city lights flickered to life, I whispered to the night, "Sometimes we must lose everything to find ourselves." In the ashes of their lies, I found the truth, and the truth set me free.